what's up guys, it's Marissa back for another BookTube video. It is about 1 o'clock in the morning, hence why it's dark, and I literally just finished this book, The Handmaid's Tale. As you can see, I've made quite a few notes on this book. Let me just start by saying this book was fucked up. It was originally published in 1985, which is a year before I was born, so I didn't really realize that when I picked up the book. I mean, I thought it was a little bit newer just because, you know, there's a Hulu series out about it, so I guess I should have done a little research. Anyway, not the point. So this book follows a woman who is basically like a prostitute for a man. Well, not even a prostitute, like more like a mistress, I guess, a live-in mistress, and basically the world's gone to hell, and people can't really have viable children anymore, and half the time when they do, they are what they call shredder children, and they're like horribly deformed and, you know, die, or they kill them because they're deformed and obviously not wanted. So yeah, so these women in red are basically the mistresses for these high-powered officials, and the woman who is telling the story is one of them. And she just talks about how women are basically being subjugated. They're not allowed to read, they're not allowed to write, they're not allowed to spell. Basically, their one and only job is to have sex and give these men children. You know, they get to go out like once a day and go to the market, and like even at the market, they have these signs on the doors, like a pig for a butcher shop or whatever. Like, they're not even allowed to read signs. So it's really, really messed up that, you know, that is even a possibility. Yeah, so I guess let me just start going through my notes. One of the things that really kind of hit me was in the beginning of this book. It's talking about these Japanese tourists that are in America, and they're basically like what you see portrayed in movies as American tourists during other countries. You know, they've got fanny packs and cameras, and, you know, they're just like, oh, you know, everything's cool, let me take a picture of this and that and whatever. And so they want to take a picture of these two women in red, and basically these women are like, no, 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 you know, we had our faces for a reason, you know, that's not cool, you can't take a picture of us. And it just reminds me so much of geishas in Japan, where, like, especially back in the day, it was not, you know, it was not cool. Geishas were like highly respected, you know, the mistress of the night kind of thing, and you know, you didn't just like run up to them and take a picture. You had to ask and whatever, and it wasn't really a thing. So it just kind of reminded me of that, like, turnabout's fair play. And there's a couple other references in here that really make me think of that, but I'll get to that. What's this next one? The wives of these commanders, as they're called, they're kind of like extremely jealous because most of them are past their own childbearing ages. Obviously, most of the commanders are older men. So they're basically past their childbearing age, and these women are replacing them. So the women kind of treat them like shit, and you know, they just feel like, you know, these women in red are like stealing their husbands from them, even though this whole process is very like mechanical and forced, and obviously these women in red don't want to be doing this. So I mean, I kind of get it in a way, but I kind of don't. So what's the next thing? Oh yes, and when they have their perfunctory sex once a month, they have to do it with the wives. Like, they're literally laying between the wife's legs on top of the wife, and then the husband is having sex with them. Like, what even is that? Just, I guess it's supposed to be like signifying that, you know, this woman is like a stand-in for the wife because the wife can't get pregnant. So it's like, you know, hey, I'm doing you a favor, but you have to be here because otherwise it's not legit. So it's really weird and awkward to me. I don't know, it's not really a thing, I guess. Oh, and when they give birth, like all the red women in the district, when one of them gets pregnant and is ready to give birth, like all the women in the district have to go over to this woman's house and they have to do like this whole chanting mantra kind of thing, but they like all have this shared pain experience. And it like even goes so far as she describes her breasts leaking milk. And even though she's not pregnant and hasn't had a child, obviously, so it's like it's like a real deep indoctrination that like you can sit in this room and do this chanting like mantra experience, and like literally everyone in the room is feeling the same pain as the woman giving birth. Kind of scary, but you know, I can see how that could happen, I suppose. Just like you're imagining it, so your body's doing it. It's like a psychosomatic response, really. Like it's all in your head, but your body's really playing it out. So I thought that was quite interesting to include in here. I mean, it doesn't really play a huge role in the story. What is this next one? Oh yeah, basically the somebody shot down the president and machine gunned Congress, and so they declared a state of emergency, and apparently they blamed it on Islamic fanatics. Anybody? Can we see the, you know, the tidings of what's going on in the United States right now? Not that I'm very political, but like kind of scary that this book was written in 1985 and like, you know, I mean, obviously our president is still alive and so is Congress, but still, Islamic terrorists, like, it just kind of rings a bell for me. What's the next one? Oh, that one. Oh, the part that really... Okay, this is gonna sound bad, but the part that really screwed me up about this whole book was when they killed the cat. Like, she mixes the story in with what's going on in the house of the commander with what was going on in her old life, because she had a husband and she had a daughter, and she's kind of like intermittently thinking about them just to kind of keep herself sane, even though for the most part she tries to push it into the back of her brain because it's not her reality anymore. So she's talking about the night that they were getting ready to try and flee the country because they knew things were just screwed up. And so she's thinking like, we're gonna have to, you know, they're gonna have to leave all their stuff behind and not make it look like they're running. They can't give the cat to the neighbor, you know, and they're like, what are we gonna do with this cat? And her husband's finally just like, well, I have to take care of it. Like, we can't, you know, we can't take the cat with us. We can't leave it here, you know, so he has to go kill the cat. And they don't describe it in graphic detail, which I am very thankful for, but it's like, oh my god. Anytime anybody does anything to an animal in book, TV show, movie, YouTube video, you know, fake, real, whatever, it still fucks me up. But I'm just an animal lover, so that's part of my problem. So, anyway, moving past that, because that's depressing anyway. So basically, like, in the story, at first she's going through how, like, every day is just the same, and, you know, she doesn't get to do anything, and she gets to look out this window, and she can't hang herself, she can't kill herself because she doesn't have access to anything to do it with. And, so the commander ends up, like, trying to get closer to her because, like I said, the sex is so perfunctory, and, you know, the wife's there, and it's not supposed to be romantic, it's supposed to be a function of duty. And so the commander, like, really wants more. So eventually he, like, starts trying to get closer to her and invites her to, like, hang out with him and starts giving her little things here and there that she's not allowed, like lotion for her face because they're not allowed to even try to have some semblance of beauty. So eventually he takes her to like this basically whorehouse, which are not supposed to exist because women are bad and they were bad with their bodies beforehand. So now we have to get rid of anything that involves women's freedom. So obviously prostitution is against the law because they're supposed to do it with their wives and their handmaids, and that's it. So he ends up taking her to this whorehouse, and come to find out, it's all these commanders and all these high-ranking officials and visiting dignitaries and whatnot. They're literally breaking their own fucking laws. Like, I know that happens. Men make the laws and men break the laws. It is what it is. But still, it's just like, okay, you know, obviously they don't really believe in all the stuff they're doing. They're only doing it for their benefit. And that's, I mean, you know this, but like this part of the book is like a real slap in the face. So you're just kind of left going, huh, yeah, you dickheads. But anyway, so then there's this other scene where like, this is definitely like a cult mentality through this whole book. They have to go to all these public ceremonies and whatever, and you know, every different station wears a different color. The handmaids wear red, the wives wear blue, the aunts, as they call them, which are basically the guardians of the handmaids and the teachers of the handmaids, they wear green, you know, on and on and on. So they basically are forced to wear this specific clothing style for their rank, as you would say, and then they have to go to these like public events like that, and they have to sit in certain places, and you know, it's all got very religious overtones. So they're going through this ceremony, and one of them is like for a public execution for just women, and there's only women that are invited to it. And so they're executing 2 handmaids and a wife, and so they end up executing them. And after that, they tell the handmaids, hey, you know, we have a special surprise for you. And so they drag out this guy who was like a guardian or a guard, and they basically say he raped a couple of handmaids, and you know, it was very violent, and he put a gun to her head and blah blah blah. Well, so basically they say, okay, from the time this whistle blows until I blow it again, you can do whatever you want. So essentially what they're telling them is, go kill this guy. Like, we're giving you permission to kill this guy. Here's why you should kill this guy, because he hurt one of your own. And like, they're basically just making them participate in this to indoctrinate them even further, because obviously they don't trust them at this point. So like, and they do, I mean, this whole group of handmaids literally beats this guy to death. And one of the other handmaids that Offred had been kind of befriending through the whole book goes up and she kicks the shit out of this guy until the guy passes out. And she comes back to Offred, and Offred's like, what is your problem? You know, why did you do that? Like, you know this guy didn't do this. They're just telling you this. And she leans in and she whispers to her and says, I know he didn't do this, but he was I was trying to knock him out because they're literally going to rip him to pieces. And, you know, I was trying to save him from it. And, man, it's messed up. It's really messed up. So I would say this book was really good. It was a little bit hard to read at first, just because like literally within the same paragraphs, she's jumping from present to past and back and forth. And it's very much an internal monologue, first person. So it was a little bit hard to read at first until you get used to it, and then you just kind of fly through it. It's only like 311 pages. There's like some historical notes in the back of it on how, you know, how they find all this information. I didn't really read that part because it seemed pretty boring after about the first page. So yeah, I mean, I guess I would definitely say to, you know, if somebody wants to read this, definitely pick it up. I mean, it's a good read. It's really messed up. It really makes you think about things. You know, I would say I would probably give it a 5 stars. just because it was an interesting read, and I did kind of connect with the character a little bit, like just this whole, you know, she feels like she's living a lie now kind of thing, because this is not what she wants to do, and, you know, she's being forced to live in this, like, militarized world that she hates, and I can't say I blame her, you know, just, it's really screwed up. So, yeah, I guess definitely go pick this book up if you want to. It is an older book. I got this one on Thrift Books for like $4 or something like that. But, you know, I'm sure you could find it. I don't think this is one I'm going to keep because I think that was deep enough for me not to read it ever again. But, yeah, definitely a really good book. So, hopefully everybody has a wonderful rest of your evening. I'm going to get my butt into bed because it is almost 1 o'clock in the morning, like 2 minutes to right now. So thanks everybody. Have a good night.